Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start today's video with a life on a Great Lakes tugboat, bad company, worse crew, and a new guy who kept getting stuck with the dirtiest job on board. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. The Great Lakes pizza incident that ended with terminations. 20 years back, I worked on a tugboat sailing the Great Lakes. This was a very crappy company, and they'd more or less exhausted every available mariner living on the Great Lakes. So nobody on the lakes would even apply to work there anymore. As a result, I, Tennessee/Kentucky river trash deckhand, got hired on. From the get-go, it was an uphill battle. My hard work ethic and easygoing nature were overshadowed by my southern accent and inexperience with big cities. Hick was one of the nicer terms thrown my way in those 6 months, but the dollars were amazing, and I learned to eat plenty of crap, as I really wanted the job. After about 4 to 5 months, I began to get a bigger picture of the dynamic and was vastly more confident in my abilities. At this point, I was unconsciously doing most, if not all, of the deckhand's work on board. One way I got screwed was galley, kitchen cleanup. One of the deckhands got galley cleanup in the morning, one got it at night. Naturally, as the FNG, effing new guy, I always seemed to get stuck with nighttime galley cleanup. AM cleanup was little more than tossing dishes in the washer and making coffee. Nighttime cleanup was the culmination of an entire day's worth of buildup. Easily 45 to 60 minutes worth of work. Enter the annual shipyard period, and this is where our tale begins. We pull into Sturgeon Bay, population 8,900, around dusk, as we had a 3-week shipyard period scheduled. Now, this company was death on drinking, instant firing. Of course, because we all had no loading, unloading the next day, we all went out to some local bar that night. My years of coal barge experience taught me to grab a few drinks, then get back to the boat. We got a job in a few hours. So after half a dozen buds, I walked back to the boat to go to sleep. Since I was a nice guy, always trying to help out my crew no matter what they do to me, I decided to cook them a couple pizzas. I tossed a couple tombstones in the oven, set cooked, smoked a butt or two, then pulled them out. I placed them on the counter with a note, "Pizza's on the stove, clean up your mess, put dishes in washer when you're done." Maybe it was the demanding tone in my orders, but my note 100% set them off. I woke up to literally pizza smeared across every cabinet and a rough FU in pizza font on the whiteboard. I woke up at 0600 to this mess. Since it was morning cleanup, I figured it was not my responsibility. I'd been getting up at 0600, 1 hour before the crew, and making coffee for 2 months, and I suspect they were used to it. This time, the bigwigs from the office were in town, shipyard remember, and had let the captain know they'd be aboard in the AM, and so they were. I was in the galley sipping my coffee when 3 of the bigwigs came down the stairs. I politely asked if anyone wanted coffee. They all said yes, former sailors, and sat in the galley, staring at the Pizza Picasso artwork decorating the bulkheads, walls, waiting for the captain apparently. After 10 to 15 minutes, the captain came down. He had that been drinking all night vibe to him and was promptly horrified at the state of the galley. Of course, he immediately tried to show off by raging against me and the state of the galley. I reminded him that I was night cleanup, not AM cleanup. The more he tried to pin this on me, the worse he looked. It finally culminated in him trying to hammer me. "I know you have night cleanup, but couldn't you have at least wiped down the cabinets?" I'd had an hour to practice my answer. When we left Toledo last week and I asked you for help cleaning the galley after the mess the longshoremen left, you told me I volunteered for night cleanup, so it's my job, period. Well, now it's AM cleanup, and other deckhand has cleanup. He doubled down and ordered me to clean the galley to save face, but it was just digging a deeper hole. Best of all, my shipmates couldn't resist bragging about the stupid drunk crap they'd done that night. I called the company's 1-800 number, used a variety of accents, and complained about what they'd been doing in Sturgeon Bay. Some of the complaints I made, lifted straight from their stories from that night. 1, threw their empties at the bar's Billy Bassmouth trophy. 2, tried to take down 2 of the bar's 5 mounted deer heads. 3, walked behind the bar to grab a bottle of Jägermeister to pour free shots for everyone. 4, after getting kicked out, they weren't, kicking the side of a pickup truck parked in front. 5, putting empties in several mailboxes between the bar and the shipyard. 6, knocking a bash-shaped mailbox off its mount, all of which they bragged about, loudly. Long story short, one officer and a deckhand got fired. The captain had Sturgeon Bay hanging over his head as long as I worked there, 7 years, and the office never effed with me, not once. You made pizzas for whoever came in after you, and they squandered it for whatever reason they could come up with? Screw those guys. And our second story. Karen's prank cost her $5,700 and a no-contact order. I live in a quiet neighborhood. Well, it's supposed to be quiet, but I've got one neighbor who seems determined to make it anything but. Karen. She's retired, perpetually angry, and convinced the world owes her something. Her favorite hobby, apparently, is making my life hell. It started a little over a year ago. I'd come outside to mow my lawn and hear this clunk as I pushed the mower over something. After 2 busted blades and a repair bill I didn't want to think about, I finally stopped and looked. Bolts, nuts, big ones, industrial, 2 to 3 inch chunks of metal, scattered in the grass where you'd never see them unless you were looking for them. At first I thought maybe a delivery truck dropped them. Then it happened again and again. After a while, I started collecting them in a bucket. I'm now up to 15 pounds of steel, and they're not just in the grass. I found one lodged in the side of my siding, left a nice little puncture. My patio furniture has dents. The bottom of my pool had a weird green film until I found a rusting bolt at the bottom. Guess who threw it in there? I decided to check the cameras. I've got 2 ring cams and a motion-activated trail cam I originally bought for wildlife. What they caught? Karen, walking right up to the property line, tossing bolts into my yard like she's feeding pigeons. No hesitation. Broad daylight. I had no idea where she was getting them from until one of my neighbors mentioned that her husband works maintenance at a nearby factory. Apparently, she's been helping herself to whatever he brings home. I took the footage to the local police and asked what my options were. That's when I learned that in my state, intentionally throwing anything onto someone's property qualifies as criminal trespass. Doesn't matter if they didn't set foot on your lawn. If they launch objects into your yard with intent to damage, that's enough. So I formally requested a no trespass warning notice through law enforcement. Officer came out, took my statement, reviewed the video, and said it was more than enough. He went over to their house, issued the warning, and told them that if Karen so much as flicked a pebble my way again, she could be charged. But I wasn't done. See, I documented everything. Repair receipts for the mower, siding repair quotes, pool cleaning, photos of the damaged furniture, even the growing bucket of bolts. With all that, I filed a nuisance tort and a civil claim for property damage. When the court date came, Karen showed up looking like she was heading to brunch instead of facing a lawsuit. She tried to act confused at first. I don't know anything about bolts. My attorney played the footage. Then she said, "It's just a prank. I didn't mean any real harm." The judge was not amused. He asked her if she thought a hole in someone's siding and a rust-stained pool was harmless fun. She tried to backpedal, saying she was stressed, that we never got along, that I provoked her by always mowing in the evening. I'm not making that up. She blamed the time of day I mow my lawn. The ruling, I won. Full damages, $5,700, and a court order that she was not to make any contact with me or my property for 2 years. If she violated it, she'd be in contempt and could face actual jail time. Since then, it's been blissfully quiet. I even replaced the dented furniture and repainted the patio just for good measure. I still keep the cameras running, though, just in case. The bucket of bolts is still in my garage. I keep thinking I should throw them out, but part of me likes seeing the pile. It reminds me of how crazy a person can be when they think no one's watching them. Why do all these Karens start behaving like this instead of directing their time and energy towards something useful or their hobby? And our last story. Entitled in-laws tried to take our ranch. I live in a small ranch about 15 minutes from the nearest small town. My family's owned this place since my grandfather, and I've never had much reason to leave. 6 years ago, I stopped in town for groceries and met my wife by chance. She just moved back to the area after realizing city life wasn't for her. She had a tomboy look, jeans, work boots, hair tied back, and she walked right up to me after spotting my truck loaded with gear. "You ranch?" she asked, nodding toward the equipment. "Yeah, mostly cattle," I said. Without hesitation, she replied, "I'm looking for work. Got livestock experience. Give me a shot, and if I can't pull my weight, you can drop me at the bus stop." I was looking for an extra hand anyway, so I agreed. Best choice I ever made. She worked harder than most men I've hired, picked up everything fast, and didn't wait around to be told what needed doing. She stayed in my guest room for a week, then got her own place. But 6 months later, we were dating, and 8 months after that, married in a small ceremony. Only one person from her side showed up, her uncle, a big-shouldered sheep farmer from Northern California. Solid man. From the way he talked about her, I could see exactly where she got her work ethic. One thing my wife didn't like to discuss was her parents. Her mother, the professor, taught at a university. Her father-in-law, did whatever she demanded. From the stories my wife told, her mother was controlling, manipulative, and had tried to dictate her life from the start. When my wife was 16, she left home and moved in with her uncle. She never went back. Fast forward to last year, we started getting mail addressed to the professor and father-in-law, bank statements, bills, all with our ranch address. I marked them, returned to sender, and put them back in the box. Then in October, a white SUV with a U-Haul pulls into our drive. My wife freezes. Oh God, it's them. The professor climbs out like she owns the place. "Well, look at you, it's been years." "Mom, what are you doing here?" my wife says. "The university's remote now. With COVID, we thought we'd self-isolate at our ranch." "This isn't your ranch," I cut in. "Oh, I'm sure we can clear up ownership. Aren't you going to invite us in?" When I refused, she told father-in-law to make the call, and he dialed the police, claiming they co-owned the property. The sheriff, who I've known since I was a kid, showed up, took one look, and said, "What's this I hear about you selling half your ranch, OP?" I didn't. They think they've got a legal stake. He shut them down quick and escorted them off the property. I thought that was the end. A couple weeks later, the professor cornered me in town and begged me to meet her at the cafe. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She started in about how my wife was confused and she only wanted what was best for her. When I said I was blessed to have my wife, she damn near shouted the word back at me like it was an insult. Months passed, no contact. Then 2 nights ago, the sheriff called. My wife picked up, listened for a minute, then started laughing so hard she could barely breathe. The professor and father-in-law had decided to sneak into our land by cutting across our eastern neighbor's orchard. Unfortunately for them, that neighbor's a hobby beekeeper in the middle of bee season. From what my neighbor told me, the professor literally bumped into one of his hives and either she or father-in-law kicked it over. The bees swarmed, stinging them both as they screamed and ran in circles. The neighbor's bear alarm sensors went off, and he ran out to see 2 middle-aged trespassers flailing like maniacs. He called the sheriff. After the bees were smoked and the stings hosed off, my neighbor pressed charges for trespassing, destruction of property, and disrupting agricultural activity, which is a serious charge here because the bees pollinate his orchard. The sheriff hauled them off to county lockup. They're now sitting in jail, covered head to toe in stings, facing multiple charges. And from what the sheriff hinted, the DA's looking to make an example of them. Considering the footage my neighbor has of them running around like they were in a bad slapstick movie, I'd say Prison Orange is going to look real nice on the professor. Extra points for writing return to sender/unknown and kicking that misaddressed mail back upstream. That helps shut down any sketchy change of address shenanigans before they stick. And as for the orchard incident, turns out the only HOA that really enforces around there is the Hive Owners Association. Nature's stripy security guards do not play. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.